small till it ain't, till it ain't, till it ain't, till it ain't. I'm building up a wall till it breaks. She hated when I call and it's late. I don't wanna keep you waiting. I hope I never keep you waiting. She think I know it all, but I don't.
Well, welcome to season 5 of the Mixtape with Scott after 1 year, approximately 1 year of not being on. And wanted to explain the absence and sort of explain where things are now. So, as you know, I've been doing the Mixtape with Scott for 4 seasons, and I think that was probably more like 3 years. I don't really know, but it was about 130 interviews with economists mostly, talking about their personal lives, their personal stories. And I do love doing that. But if I'm being honest, I am burnt out. That's the truth. I'm a burnt out on the concept of it. Um, and wanted to find something new, I mean, so I had this idea because of all this Claude Code enthusiasm or curiosity or interest and things like that, and me being really have poured myself in it since November, just trying to learn it and learn how to use it productively and all the trappings of it. I had this idea, and the idea was, what if me and someone else were to use Claude Code to write a paper, to work on a paper. I don't mean write a paper, to do a research project, like an actual research project. I don't mean automate a paper. That's what a lot of people seem to be doing, is they're just automating the writing of research, doing of research with Claude Code. And I wanted to, I have not been interested in that. Um, but I have been interested in using it in a way that's productive. So, long story short, what I did was I reached out to my friend Caitlin Myers at Middlebury. She's my friend, my co-author, uh, and I asked her, "Well, what if we did this? What if you and I were to do a podcast together, where for one season we used Claude Code on the podcast to do research on a project?" And what I felt like was nice is that she and I have really good banter, and she just tickles me so much, and she's so funny and so thoughtful and very ethical and serious minded. And she's a lot more bullish and a lot more skeptical about artificial intelligence. And I, on the other hand, I don't know what I am on those other little comments that I just made, those little characteristics. But I'm definitely um, probably hopeful about artificial intelligence. But we're both love each other very much, and we both respect each other very much. And I think one of the things that connects us is an interest in the same topics, and the fact that we're applied microeconomists. But it's also that what connects us, I think, is we do have a genuine love of research. We do really love thinking and learning and growing and discovering things. And I think we're very open-minded and curious people. But I also think we're so different that it's going to be great. And so, what we're going to do in this show is, for this next year, she and I are going to meet on a regular basis for about 30 minutes to do research together. But the great thing about Claude Code is sometimes it takes a little bit. Sometimes it's doing a little bit. It's producing stuff. And it gives us time to talk. So, like, I've always been a real big fan of playing games with somebody and talking during the games, like playing spades or playing Gen with someone, and then just playing Gen and then talking. I've always been more of a fan of that than of just sitting down and talking because I I think I do better if I can sort of be working on something with someone and then keep bothering them with questions while we're supposed to get work done. And so I think I'm better at that than if I was just to say, "Hey, let's just go hang out and get a beer." Because then I need to be breaking up their attention and trying to get them to pay attention to me. So that's what we're gonna do. And I know it might seem like there's no way it's gonna work because Claude Code is like on your computer screen. So we are gonna be sharing my screen. We are gonna be sharing my screen. We're gonna be trying to figure out a little bit about how to do all this at the same time so that you can sort of see us both together. Hopefully we can figure this out. At worst, though, at worst, you'll hear us and we'll be talking. And as we're talking, we will just be we will be thinking we'll be saying out loud what we're doing. We'll be saying out loud what we're doing. We'll be trying to do research together. It could go really bad. This could be like the worst idea ever, but in my head, I feel like it might work and I'm going to do it. So I asked Caitlin, could we do it? And she said, yeah. So, so she's got much better judgment than me. So if she said, yeah, then it might be a good idea, but we'll see. So anyway, this is our first episode where we're just talking, kind of trying to lay out what we're doing and hope you enjoy it. Welcome to this thing that we're doing. Uh,
I am excited to find out what it is.
okay. All right. So I'm getting my guide out. All right. Well, it's going to be called. We're gonna start out with introductions. You're going to tell for the sake of the audience, who are you?
I'm your friend Caitlin Myers Scott. I am an applied microeconomist. I'm at Middlebury College, and I mostly these days study the effects of abortion policy and abortion restrictions.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm Scott Cunningham, and I am your friend. And I study, sometimes I've studied abortion with you, and then other times I study sex work and suicide in the jails and prisons and all kinds of weird stuff, other than video games and other things. Okay, I have an icebreaker for us, and I'll go ahead and start. So, Caitlin, I've been telling a few people that we're starting a podcast where two economists use artificial intelligence to research live on camera, and the most common reaction I get is that sounds like a horrible idea that could go horribly wrong. And I wanted to get your response. What of that I said is how is your response to this idea of this podcast?
It sounds like the beginning of a joke, doesn't it? Like two economists walk into a bar, economists open Claude Code. Um, I think one of the things that I like about myself is that I'm pretty comfortable with failure. And so I do think this is a bit of a risky gambit, but like, my gosh, there's this exciting new technology, and you are at the vanguard of learning how to use it as an applied microeconomist, which is not necessarily what, Claude Code was built for, as you've pointed out to folks. And I want to show up and try it out with you. And if it turns out to be a failure, hopefully we learn something along the way and we're not too embarrassed.
Okay, awesome. So, how would you explain to someone what we're doing on this thing? What are we going to be doing?
Okay, I think we're going to figure this out along the way, but here's our starting point. We're both really interested in the causal effects of abortion restrictions on various demographic, social, economic outcomes. And we've been talking a bit lately. We saw each other a couple weeks ago and you came up to Middlebury and gave a talk. And we've been talking a bit lately about the fact that the effects of abortion access on marriage patterns is understudied. And we're going to take a stab at developing a project that uses variation in abortion access that occurred in Texas back in 2013, which we have used before to study births. But this time around, we're going to see if we could use it to study the effects of restricting abortion access on marriage. And let's see exactly how much of this we can do with assisted by Claude Code. Let's see how it helps us formulate the question, understand the literature, search for data, set things up. And
Caitlin, are you saying
I
that we're going to write a paper together using on a podcast?
we'll see. I think we might.
And we're going to use Claude Code, an AI coding assistant, to help us do this. Is that right?
Yep.
All right, here we go. So, what's going to happen on this podcast is that we are going to be working on a paper together that we have never started. We haven't set up a directory, we haven't done anything, and we are going to be working on it together with the audience watching, but we're going to be using Claude Code to do the whole thing, to do all the actual empirical parts. We're going to see which parts we're going to do. We're going to read the files, we're going to write the code, we're going to make mistakes, and we're going to try to figure this thing out. And each episode is going to pick up where we left off. So it's going to be like a serialized, it's basically Game of Thrones. Is that right? Was that what you were thinking?
Bad things happen on Game of Thrones, Scott.
True, true. We're not sure who's
I
going
don't
to
want to
make
be
it.
Sean Bean's character.
We don't know if we're going to make it. Okay, cool. All right. So, but let's get into this research question. And so we're going to be we're going to be talking about Claude Code. We're going to be talking about AI. And do you think that this is accurate that we're kind of the odd couple when it comes to this? Because I might be sort of like wildly enthusiastic about AI, and you might be, how would you describe how you're different from me with your temperament towards artificial intelligence and Claude Code?
I think it's an existential threat to humanity.
Yeah, that's not funny.
Should I have soft pedaled that a little bit more?
Can't tell me why you say that.
Okay, well, that would be a whole big question, a whole half hour unto itself. I think that we can develop this as we talk, but I would say that I am a pessimist but a pragmatist. So I am watching this new technology develop rapidly, and I think that if I want to keep up professionally and not become rapidly obsolete, that I need to start coding with Claude Code. It's going to make me faster, more efficient. I hope not sloppier. We're going to see,
We're going to
'cause I'm
see,
like,
right?
I'm a
We don't,
very exacting, very careful researcher typically. I hope I want to be.
right.
But in any event, so I think kind of the pragmatic part of me says like, I'm not, it's technology and going back in the barn. And so I better jump on, while I can. And at the same time, I think a lot of times when we talk about AI, what I hear are like, some pretty nice use cases, but I'm quite concerned that the marginal benefits of using AI don't outweigh the marginal costs.
Yeah.
And I think it's a threat to our ability to think, our ability to interact with other people,
Yeah.
the future of our jobs. I could go on, but in any event, I think it's safe to say I'm more pessimistic than you are.
Yeah, sure, sure. I would say too, one of the things that you bring to it is we both kind of are thinking about the private marginal benefits and the private marginal costs, but I think you're really also
Mhm.
thinking about the social marginal benefits and the social marginal costs in a way that will make this whole thing be an interesting ongoing conversation, right? I mean, that's what I
Yeah,
think. Yeah.
I'm super looking forward to it.
And the whole concept, I think, is that, for the listener, is that we also are hoping that we can sort of share a little bit about how the sausage is made on the research process. We'll have a lot of downtime as Claude's doing a bunch of stuff, and we'll just be talking. That's why we think it's going to work over the audio part, not just the video part.
Yeah, I hope so. Like my concern is for folks who are just listening, that not being able to see you pull up Claude Code and see exactly what's happening. I don't want that to be boring, but I
Yeah,
think that we've got a lot to talk about. So as long as we're good at multitasking,
yeah,
should be able to keep things interesting.
right. Okay. So this is the pilot episode of The Odd Couple. All right, so here we go. Today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna just lay out the research question for the sake of the listener about what this project's gonna be about. And so I have a question for you. I'm gonna be the one kind of setting you up a little bit. So here's a question. Sounds simple, but it isn't. Caitlin, if you make it harder for women to get abortions, why would that make them more change whether they decide to get married? That's the what I would like to hear what you're thinking.
Yeah, I've been ruminating on this, and I think there are a lot of reasons. And I probably won't come up with all of them right off the bat in our first conversation. So I'm curious to see what you add to this. But the first place anybody should go is this really well-known Akerlof, Yellen, and Katz paper from gosh, what year is it from, Scott? Is it like
96.
96? Yeah.
I think it's 96. Few
Yeah,
days.
so it's a paper about technology shock, and it's primarily a theory paper. And essentially, what they lay out is a story where making the birth of a child the physical choice of the person carrying the pregnancy, right? By giving the pregnancy capable person more reproductive autonomy through contraception, better contraception access, or abortion access, that actually can in turn make the child feel like the choice of the mother and reduce the social norm for the partner, for the father to marry her as a result of pregnancy, right? So
Right.
there used to be this norm, like in the 50s and the 60s, of a so-called shotgun marriage, which is basically if you had a young, this is like a little stereotypical, and I'm not even sure we're supposed to say shotgun marriage anymore, but if you had like a young, unmarried couple and they got pregnant, they were going to get married. That was the
Right.
social norm.
Right.
And the idea is that the kind of technological advances of the pill and abortion eroded that norm,
Right.
right? And so that's one reason that you could see abortion access affecting marriage patterns.
In that paper, is it right to think about it as a bargaining paper? Is the man and the woman bargaining in some way, and or what's going on exactly? Because it sometimes seems like in that paper they're at odds with each other, right? Like because it's not really an intended birth, and one of them might not have wanted to get married. Is that how you read it?
Yeah. So, I think from a bargaining perspective, I'm not sure about I don't want to answer. I don't want to go too in the weeds on that paper.
Yeah.
I think I'd have to really
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
review it. But I think there is a bargaining story here also that is related. So you can imagine that I can imagine a couple of kind of bargaining stories that you could tell. So one might be that the access to abortion is creating kind of asymmetries in the cost of sex by gender.
Yeah.
Maybe that causes women to say, like, to have an increased demand for commitment. But you could also imagine that might become, sorry, an increased demand for commitment if they have lower access to abortion.
Hmm.
Right, because they face kind of a higher cost of sexual activity without access to abortion.
Right.
And so maybe they say, like, I want an increased demand for commitment. Um, that might increase marriage, but on the other hand, it could also perhaps make them choosier about the sexual relationships they enter into. And
Ah.
you could see that reducing marriage. So I do think it's one of those, like, there's a
Yeah.
bargaining story here,
Right.
but I don't know that it points us in just like one direction of the effect.
That's always the problem in these relationship papers is you've got these like, what's the effect that happens for the existing group of people? And that one sometimes can be teased out a little bit more, but then it's like now who selects into the relationships and how does it change the
Right,
overall, matching market? And so that
right.
does kind of, this is where I guess economists spending all this time coming up with these models, and then the model basically says, well, a bunch of stuff could happen, and we're going to have to find a way to test it empirically, which leads to this, right?
Yeah.
But you actually have studied this. So that was a theory paper, but you actually have a paper in the Journal of Political Economy where you did look at the effect of abortion access on marriage, right? That's one of the only ones. Is it one of the few?
I don't, gosh, I don't know of another
Because it's
that
hard
looks
to
at
study
marriage.
this.
And it's interesting.
It's hard to
Yeah.
study this question. Why is it hard to
Super
study
hard.
this question?
Well, it's it's hard to study things that we're not counting very reliably. And so we don't have national, to my knowledge, we don't have national data that are like recording marriage certificates.
Mm,
And so the way that I did it in that JP paper is that I was looking at the effects of abortion liberalization in the 60s and 70s, right? So this is our grandparents' generation. This is 50 years ago.
yeah,
Abortion restrictions are being eased leading up to Roe v. Wade that legalizes abortion nationwide.
yeah.
And there's this state level policy variation, and I show using CPS
What's the
fertility.
state level policy variation for the sake of the reader, listener?
Yeah, okay. So in let's start with 1965. In 1965, abortion basically was banned in every state. There were
Hmm.
some exceptions, but there weren't many granted, and so we kind of describe abortion as being illegal in
Uh-huh.
every state.
Okay.
Beginning with Colorado in 1967,
Hmm.
states start to relax the regulations around abortion. Some
Hmm.
states are just reforming them and they're kind of expanding the circumstances under which you can get an abortion. And so it's just, for instance, you can go before this review board and kind of make an argument that an abortion is
Oh.
necessary for the health of the pregnant person. Some of those states let it be for mental health, some don't. A lot of times it's quite unclear. But in any event, you start to see this kind of relaxation of the rules.
Hmm.
But then what happens that's really big is with California in 1969, five states in the District of Columbia repeal or invalidate their abortion bans altogether. And abortion, I'm
Is
simplifying a
that the
little
same
bit.
thing as saying it was legal? What does it mean?
Yes,
So invalidating just means it had been prohibited, that's now no longer a law.
still on the books, but it's not enforceable.
Oh, so it's
So,
not enforced.
yeah, so I think I'd have to review, but I think it's two of these. I think in California and the District of Columbia, they have federal court or state court decisions that say this prohibition isn't constitutional.
Oh,
It cannot be enforced. So it's not necessarily repealed, but it
got it.
stops being enforced.
Oh, that's wild. Okay.
And then other states are just outright, their legislatures are repealing the abortion ban and taking it off the books. But kind of the de facto effect of both of those when we talk about these repeal states is the same, which is that abortion rapidly became available in California after that
Mm,
invalidation. Abortion also rapidly became available in like New York State after they
mm.
repealed their abortion prohibition.
Can you
And so
get the
we,
location of those firms? I know I'm going to end up being, this is how horrible this podcast can be because I'm not going to be able to
you
focus.
could ask me all the
But
questions.
do they, because it's so funny, I have a paper on that uses the early repeal also, but I've never really fully understood exactly what the law change was. And I think I just kind
Yeah.
of took it for granted, then, oh, it was just like, legal. But now I'm just sort of thinking, well, I wonder what technically it was. And so, like, because the reason why I say that is because sometimes you can't get a license or you can't open a bank account or you can't file taxes on an activity that's not actually formalized. So like are there clinics that are opening up all throughout California, for instance?
Yes. Yes. And
Oh,
that's so I spent a lot of time, the JP paper that we're talking about took me 10 years to complete.
no.
And about two and a half of it was a long publication process,
Yeah.
but about two and a half of those years were nothing but me going very carefully through historical annotated statutes, judicial rulings, medical journals, press coverage, like kind of firsthand accounts, Planned Parenthood chapter histories,
Wow.
trying to understand exactly what the regulatory change was
Mm.
and what effect it had on the ground. Because you're right, like just because the law changes doesn't necessarily mean that all of a sudden there are providers offering
Yeah,
abortion
because I mean, you
services.
could lose your license if you're doing something that's like technically, still illegal, but not being enforced. I mean, who knows what
Yes.
risk that a
There,
physician faces?
so the five states in DC that we call repeal states.
Hmm.
These are states that either invalidated or completely repealed their abortion bans
Yeah.
before Roe v. Wade was ever decided.
Right.
And in all of these, it's really quite clear that this had an immediate and large on the ground effect. Abortion clinics opened, big abortion clinics opened.
You got
These
those
states,
data? You ended up getting the counties, or is it in every county or something? It's not in every.
I So in the case of Washington, D.C., there's historical records of the clinics that opened. I actually know somebody who worked at one of them and asked her a ton of questions about
Can
it.
we get Claude Code on an episode to find all these data of
That'd be very
every?
interesting. I think it would be very hard to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
That's why we get him to do it. Keep going. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. I can tell it had an immediate effect. It would be really interesting to try to figure out where. But what I'll say is something that's really difficult is at the time, as this was all developing,
Yep.
um, a lot of what happened was that abortions were being provided in hospitals and they weren't necessarily advertising, but
Mm,
particularly for women who had kind of connections to primary care physicians and OBGYNs who could refer them to the hospital or treat them there. Like it might not look like an abortion clinic, but they could get an abortion more easily. So
yeah.
I think the definitions are a little murkier.
Yeah.
To follow up on your question, though, I'll mention that
Yeah.
there are at least three states where there was this kind of back and forth between attorney generals and courts and abortion activists.
Hmm.
And abortion activists were starting to say they were going to provide services. It was unclear how many services they were providing. And then the states were saying that they were going to pursue legal action.
Mm,
And those states are New Jersey, Wisconsin, and Vermont that I've got in mind.
yeah.
And so there are some gray areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, this is why this is going to work because you're demanding, you're a very demanding and meticulous empiricist. So you're not going to be cool with like a bunch of shortcuts and a bunch of AI hallucinations. Is that a fair statement?
I hope not.
We're
I
going
mean,
to
it's
see.
interesting that we're working on a topic where you and I both have the
Yeah.
policy context and historical knowledge to
Right.
pick up on it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, so
it'll be
you in this
interesting.
paper, what do you find in this paper that abortion access had on marriage?
Right. So in this paper, I'm using CPS fertility supplements. And what that means is
Mm,
that we are looking at women who are responding to this big national survey, and they are being asked to retrospectively report the age they were when they first got married and when they first had a child, if they did either.
okay.
And I'm
Oh,
using
got
and
it.
I'm using that retrospective data to look at cohorts of women and to
Ah,
basically say, let's look at what happens to women who, by virtue of their birth year,
hmm,
are coming of age in states where abortion has become legal, like these repeal states, compared to cohorts of women who are coming of age in other states where abortion has not yet been legalized.
yeah.
That's the basic intuition of the natural experiment. And of course, there's a lot more to it, but you throw a bunch of other things at it. And any way you look at the data, it is clear from this paper, as it has been from others, that first of all, the legalization of abortion dramatically reduced birth rates for
Mm,
young women. And I look at it in terms of the probability of becoming a teen mom, and
mm.
it fell by about a third due to the legalization of abortion.
What's
So
the
there's
like? How much is that? What percent to what percent? Is it?
Okay, Scott, I gotta look it up.
Okay. Let's keep going.
I
All
can
right.
look it up.
Okay, you can look it up. So we're
I got
gonna.
the I got the relative effect in mind.
Okay, right, right. All right. So then, so
Ask Claude
birds.
Code what my result was.
Okay, yeah, all right. Well, he's acting up real quick. So, um, okay, wait. So you find that affect dramatic reductions in births and teen births in particular.
I'm studying teen births specifically. I'm
Oh,
not really
specific.
looking, although other people like Phil Levine have looked at births later.
Okay, all right. And what about marriage?
Yeah, so I think this is the only paper that looks at marriage. And
Mm,
what's interesting is that in this data set, we know how old, we know if somebody's been married and how old they were when they got married. And so
mhm.
What I find is that there is a 20% reduction in the probability somebody got married as a teenager, so before they
Mm,
turned 20. And I can also see the specific timing of how old they were in months when they got married and how old they were in months when they had their first child.
hmm.
And I mess around with the bandwidth some, but let's call a shotgun marriage
Yeah.
a marriage that's followed by the birth of a child in less than 7 months.
Oh, that's got to be that's incredible.
I
Right.
mean, some of these are premature babies, but
Oh,
not
right.
many,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Shotgun marriage will
Um,
show up in the time in the ordering of the events.
yes, exactly.
The
So it's like,
gestation and the thing. Right, right, right,
yep.
right, right, right.
So it's basically
Oh,
we've got a marriage and there's a birth occurring like pretty soon after
yeah,
it, right?
right, right, right.
And maybe people like side-eyed that a little bit. And
Ah,
the reduction in marriages that I see is
yeah.
completely explained by a reduction in these shotgun marriages. These
Oh,
shotgun
man.
marriages plummet. But here's what's interesting about the two papers that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
So I mostly had in mind that people weren't having shotgun marriages because when they experienced an unintended pregnancy, they could abort it instead of carrying it to delivery and getting married as a result. But Akerlof, Yellen, and Katz have a perfectly valid alternative viewpoint on this,
Yeah.
which is like that. And these aren't like at odds with each other, really.
Yeah.
Like both could be true. So
Mhm.
that could be true. And it also could be true that for those people who are experiencing an unintended pregnancy, don't want to or can't access abortion, that the norm of a shotgun marriage is eroded, right? That like their partners are like, well, this is your choice now. This isn't our choice. This is
Yeah.
your choice. You have the choice to choose not to have an abortion. I have the choice to choose not to get married.
Right.
And that would also reduce marriages, right?
Hmm.
And so I don't think we've really thought about or teased that out sufficiently. Like both of
Yeah.
these could be true, and I don't really know about their relative contributions.
Mm. Okay. So, boy, that are we gonna need to? All right. That's so you came down. Your belief is these are reductions in shotgun marriages, though. That's how you sell it.
Yeah,
That's what it looks like in the data. Because that's like
very, very strongly.
if you define a shotgun marriage as the the ti the timing from the marriage date to the birth month, it doesn't have to be a shotgun marriage, but that's what a shotgun marriage looks like, right? That's
Yeah.
the idea. You could have said, I'm pregnant and we're gonna just, whatever, or you meet somebody different, you meet somebody different. Like there could be all kinds of things that could happen, but if it's a shotgun marriage, that is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yep.
that's cool. All
And
right.
it's a big effect, Scott. It's a 63% reduction in shotgun marriages.
Dang.
It's a
Yeah.
big, yeah, really
Dang.
big effect.
But is that because in that period of time, abortion is selecting on teenage, like poor people and teenagers, and is it different now?
I think it could be different now. So, at the time that abortion was legalized, so we're talking about the early 70s, the largest effects that people who've studied it have seen, it's not this isn't just me, have been for younger women during this era. Like the largest effects were on fertility for teenagers and women in their early 20s.
Hmm.
In many recent studies, we've also seen large effects on young women,
Hmm.
but some of the most recent analyses from like the last 10 years, that is becoming less true, that the
Hmm.
teenagers in particular have the biggest effects. They're looking more like the older age groups. So, it could be that we've got this shift. It also could be we haven't done, there's not a lot of recent analyses that look at effects on births by marital status.
Yeah.
I've got one new working paper with Daniel Dench and Myra Pineda Torres that looks at the effect of Dobbs on births by marital status.
Hmm.
And we don't find statistically significant evidence of a difference between married and unmarried people.
Hmm.
But the point estimates actually suggest it's possible that the relative effect on births is a bit larger for
Mm.
married people. And it could be because they have lower cost of carrying pregnancy to delivery, right? So you have an unmarried person and a married person who, if there were an abortion clinic nearby and it were legal, would both get abortions, but it's really far away. It's really hard to get to. The married person might perceive kind of a lower cost of carrying that pregnancy to delivery. They might have more resources.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so this project we're working on together using Claude Code to do this. Uh, it's not necessarily a throwaway project, and we're hoping that we can sort of. I mean, it would be interesting to. We're not really gonna be able to do. We're not gonna probably be using that CPS supplement. Is it available at the county level?
No. Only,
It would.
well, it's available with state identifiers. The CPS, you can get county identifiers for the counties with big populations, but there's really
Hmm.
not enough of them. And I don't think they'd have large enough sample sizes to use. Maybe ACS data, that could be something to think about.
Okay, we might could dig into that because that's county
Mhm.
level, and okay, so we might. So we might do that. We're gonna see what we can do, and then we're gonna do it. We're gonna see, but our goal here is to tie our hands a little bit
Mhm.
because we're trying to not touch anything, and you're gonna be uh not you're gonna be yourself, right?
Thank goodness.
That's the thing. You're gonna be yourself, and if you don't like something, what are we gonna we're gonna have to solve it on the air, right? We're gonna have to solve like how we're gonna do this. I guess we can look at it. That's not what you would be doing in a project. You would be looking. So we're gonna do whatever we want to do, right? Yeah.
Sounds good
And
to me.
I'm looking forward to learning from you because I sort of live in a bit of my own echo chamber of my own enthusiasm, and it's great to no one has really co-authored with Claude, you know? I mean,
But Scott,
with a pair of people. Nobody's ever
yeah.
done this yet. I bet we're the first.
Um, well, maybe we're the first to admit it.
The first to admit it. No, I'm saying two people
Oh,
co-authoring.
together.
Well, no, I mean actually me and Melanie. Actually, I take that back. I'm co-authoring with some people. All right, I take it back. We'll clean that up in post. Just kidding. That's what they say.
Here's my
And
question for you, Scott.
all right,
Are we gonna have if suppose this turns into a paper that we think the world should know about? We can have problems submitting a paper that's so intricately involved and use that like
yeah,
uses Claude code so intensively.
yep.
Well, we'll worry about that down the
Well, I
line.
worry about we weren't the thing I say back to that is in counterfactual. We weren't going to write this paper anyway, so
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. We're definitely we're pioneers.
Yeah.
We're pioneers. All right.
Yeah.
So, okay, last thing. The Lindo, Myers, Schlosser, and Cunningham 2020 JHR supply shock. That's going to be the context of our project. What happened? What is House Bill 2 in Texas?
Yeah, that paper's a ripper, isn't it?
Yeah.
Uh,
I
Um, I'll humor you. I know you know what happened with House Bill 2 in
I've
Texas.
seen it. I'm on that list.
Yeah, you are. You're on that list. So in 2023, not 2023, my gosh, in 2013, let me go back another decade from there. In 2013, the Texas legislature enacted a very restrictive set of regulations for abortion providers. And the regulations, the two key regulations that I'll talk about were an admitting privileges requirement
Mhm.
for physicians, and they were always physicians in Texas, physicians providing abortions, and an ambulatory surgical center requirement for the facilities where abortions were performed.
Yeah.
Now, kind of to quickly sum up what that means, it meant that for a physician providing abortions, they had to have admitting privileges at a hospital that was in 30 miles of the abortion clinic where they were working. That might not sound like a big deal, but it actually was a huge deal. Most abortion providers, particularly in a state like Texas that already had a lot of regulations, were quite specialized. Most of them were working just in these abortion clinics. They had no reason to have admitting privileges at a hospital. Complications of abortions are rare. If somebody needs to be transferred to a hospital because of a complication, the hospital would take them, and the hospital wouldn't necessarily want the abortion physician to hop in the ambulance and come along. Like the hospital
Mm,
has their own healthcare providers.
yeah.
So a lot of these abortion providers didn't have admitting privileges, and the
Mm.
hospitals weren't particularly interested in granting them admitting privileges.
Why? Why is it costly for a hospital to just say you have admitting privileges? Is it some
Well,
liability or
I
something?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two reasons. I think, first of all, hospitals don't necessarily want people on their privileges list who aren't actually working at the hospital, right? Like
I
these
see.
providers don't have a connection to the hospital. They're not working there.
They don't gain anything from it,
They don't gain
probably.
anything from
Right.
it, and they might lose something. So there was an instance of two abortion providers in Dallas who did manage to get admitting privileges at a nearby hospital
Mm.
and reopen the facility. And the day it was announced, picketers showed up outside of the
Yeah.
hospital's emergency department,
Yeah.
and they blocked its entrance and basically
Yeah.
shut it down. And
Right.
so that hospital revoked the privileges that it had granted basically the same day. So it was
Yeah.
clear it could be very costly to the
Yeah. Yeah.
hospitals.
Yeah. Totally. 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 This is why it's gonna be so fun. You know everything.
I
You
don't know about
do, you know
everything, but I like the
everything. This is
story.
what I loved about the working with you is you're just like so meticulous in all the weeds of everything. Okay, so how many clinics close when they fail
About
to meet
half of
these?
them.
Half.
About half of them. So Texas had roughly, we'll get the exact count again, like we've collected all the data, and I don't remember,
Yeah.
it was roughly 50,
Yeah.
and about
We'll get
half of
Claude to
them.
do it. We're gonna get him to count
We'll have Claude be like, tell us again how many. It'll go cite us. It'll be like,
it.
remember, this is
Right.
also so illustrative how hard you can work on a paper and then forget the number that you obsessed over. But it's about half of them, and
Yeah.
they closed almost overnight. So this is
Mm.
what's so important. That admitting privileges requirement went into effect on November 1st, 2013.
Yeah.
And on November 1st, 2013, about half of Texas's abortion facilities closed. Like it is a
Mm-hmm.
very sudden shock, and it was a really big shock.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I also mentioned the ambulatory surgical center requirement. That was also a very costly regulation for the providers because it
Hmm.
said that even if they were only providing abortion pills,
Yeah.
right? There's no surgery happening at all. In fact, the abortion isn't occurring. The expulsion of the fetus
Yeah.
isn't even occurring on site.
Right.
Even if that's all that they're providing, they have to meet the same standards as facilities that are providing much more risky surgeries.
Yeah.
And those physical plant requirements are very costly to implement, cost millions of dollars.
Mm.
Now, that requirement only
Millions of
ever
dollars. Is it basically,
millions
it's like
for one facility.
tearing stuff down and like building like a new building almost? It's not
Yeah,
that
there's
extreme,
all
but
these
it's
hall
big.
width requirements,
Yeah.
HVAC system requirements, different rooms where things have to be.
Right.
It's very costly, and
Hmm.
I think it varies. How much it costs to retrofit a building varies, or to build a new building. But certainly, Planned Parenthood was fundraising and did build or convert some buildings to ambulatory surgical centers. And the numbers that they were putting out were big numbers, and
Yeah.
smaller independent providers weren't necessarily going to be able to come up with that.
Right. Right.
But what's important to know is that that provision, while it was kind of hanging over the providers' heads,
Yeah.
it only ever was in effect for about 2 weeks
Yeah.
before the US Supreme Court issued an injunction staying its enforcement while this case about all of these regulations went through the Supreme Court. So the policy we super care about is the admitting privileges requirement that shut down half the facilities on November 1st,
So
2013.
I live in Corpus Christi, let's say,
Yeah,
southern part of the state, near
yeah.
the water. And I used to drive what, zero across
Yeah,
town?
Corpus is a really interesting example. I'm sorry to tell you so many stories, but this is a good one. So Corpus had a provider.
Yeah.
They had a facility, they had a provider, and that provider did not have admitting privileges at a local hospital. And the
Uh-huh.
facility would have closed, except there was a physician providing abortions in San Antonio who
Hmm.
used to be a practicing obstetrician and gynecologist in Corpus Christi. And these
Hmm.
cities are not close to each other. These are like what, like a couple, we've both lived in Texas, Scott, like a
Oh
couple
yeah.
hours?
Oh yeah,
San
you're in the
Antonio to
car.
Corpus?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're in the car.
You're not, it's not fun. I drove a kid to Corpus Christi and I agreed to do it. And then he was my son's friend and I drove him to Corpus. I was just halfway there. I was like, why didn't I look at the map? I mean, it's like I'm driving across a country. Texas is massive. Yeah, don't.
I'm looking at the map right now. 2 hours and 4 minutes. Man, I was on. Um,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
so so this guy living in San Antonio still has admitting privileges in Corpus Christi. He never relinquished them. I guess they never expired. They never got taken away. He's in his 80s and he starts commuting every week down to Corpus Christi to provide abortions at that facility. And
Hmm.
so Corpus Christi, for a while, and this is an exception, most of the facilities closed immediately, but Corpus is an exception because it closed after a couple of months when the provider who was commuting said, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
This is too much. And then it closed. So if you were in Corpus Christi, you maintained access for a few months while this provider from San Antonio kind of underwent this like Herculean drive, this Herculean effort to maintain abortion services in Corpus Christi.
Yeah.
Then they go away,
Yeah.
and then your nearest provider is Houston or San Antonio.
Man,
And we already know San Antonio's 2 hours away, Houston's 3 hours away. Like that's where you're going.
that's a bit of a drive. So what did we find in that paper? What's the research design of that paper?
So in that paper, we exploit, and I think we've got to stop using the word exploit as
Yeah.
economists. We like think
Yeah.
it's a good word and everybody else cringes.
Right.
So like I cheerily
What
say,
about take advantage of?
that's bad too, Scott. We need a
Yeah. All
new.
right. All right. We'll keep workshopping this.
Somebody suggested leverage, but that sounds too corporate. We need a new word.
Right.
I'll just cheerily say that we exploit the
Yeah.
fact
Right.
that this sudden shock closed a lot of facilities, but not all facilities, and it
Hmm.
generated variation in distance across this very big state. So all of a sudden, in
Mm.
some places, distance goes up by, 100 plus miles.
Yep.
In other places, distance doesn't change.
Hmm.
And we show that abortion rates fall a lot
Yeah.
in the places where distance went up a lot
Hmm.
relative to the places where it didn't.
We used a
And
method called difference in differences.
we use difference in differences
Differences in
estimation.
differences. Yep. Keep
Yep.
going.
Yep. So the thing I was going to say about it is that that was a big surprise to some people at the time. Like we found that if distance goes up by about 100 miles, I think the number we came up with in that paper, which is similar to numbers we've seen in other papers now, it's about abortion rates fall by about 20%.
Hmm.
And like there's a lot of economists who are like, man, the cost of carrying an unwanted pregnancy to term must be so high. If you want an abortion, surely you're going to figure out how to get one rather than that.
Hmm.
But these are like the population seeking abortions, they're overwhelmingly very poor and credit
Yeah.
constrained.
Right.
And we found
You got to take off
distance
from
is a
work.
you got to take off of work, you got to
Yeah.
find childcare, and we found that
Got to
these
spend the night.
distances
You might have to
were
take
big
two trips.
barriers.
Yeah. It's not
Yep.
trivial. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, you're on, you're a wage worker, then, you could get in big trouble for,
Right.
you might not, you have to get permission to leave. I mean, it's not straightforward.
Right.
So, all right. So let's see. So I wanted to say one thing. We're going to use Claude. So that's great. We're going to link all this together. We're going to look at the same research design of House Bill 2 and the variation in distance. But we don't have the marriage data. So we're going to
Right.
get Claude Code to find it. We're going to figure out if we're going to try to figure out using Claude Code if you can be satisfied with the data. That's what I was thinking, is that one of the things we're going to do on this is can we satisfy you that we can move on? Okay, so that's going to be part of it because you're very demanding. I mean, not that I'm not demanding, but I like think that you definitely are. And so that's going to be part of it. And we're going to try out we're going to kick the wheels a little bit on this continuous diff and diff.
I'm excited for that. I got a lot to
Exciting,
learn.
exciting. We're gonna be using this new fourth or conditionally accepted American Economic Review paper by Brant Calloway, Andrew Goodman Bacon, Pedro Santana, where they have the continuous diff and diff. So the dosage in our case is distance, the number of miles that a person that is we're gonna talk about. We might use as the crow flies, we might not. We're gonna have that conversation on the podcast, right?
Great.
Great. Okay, so our goal is 30-minute podcast episodes. We're going to do this regularly. We're going to kind of work out our schedule and when it's going to be promoted. And we're going to all write this paper. We're going to do this project together. We're going to see if there's a paper at the end of it.
I'm ready. Let's go.
I'm ready. Okay. All right. Well, I guess I will see you soon.
Love it. Can't
Love
wait
it.
for the next chapter. I have a post-production question for you.
Okay. What's up?
I found the absolute effects that you asked me that I couldn't remember. Do you want
All
to try
right.
to get them in there? Or you want me to just not
Yeah,
know?
do it real quick. What is it?
Okay, hold on. Let me just pull them up again. Can't believe I can't remember something from that paper. I'd think I'd have the entire thing
I know.
memorized.
Yeah.
Pull it up.
I bet Einstein couldn't remember any of his papers too. And Darwin, he's like, what was the name of that boat I was on?
All right, let's see. Okay. Just finding the exact right ages.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, what is it?
Okay, so the effects of living in a state that had the most liberal access to abortion, which in this paper is defined as abortion is legal. And if you are a teenager, you don't have to involve a parent. You can just
Okay.
go get an abortion.
Okay.
We've got a 5.7 percentage point decrease in the probability of becoming a teen mom, 4.8 percentage point reduction in the probability of marrying as a teen, and a 4 percentage point reduction in the probability of having a so-called shotgun marriage.
Oh,
as a
three
teen.
different things. The birth, the teenage marriage, and the shotgun marriage.
Yeah.
That must have been a fun paper to work on. Is that how you
I
think? Do you think in terms of fun?
Yeah, but I think my idea of fun is maybe a little idiosyncratic. Like people ask me what hobbies I have, and I'm confused by the question. Like
Yeah.
I wake up on a Saturday morning, and honestly, whatever paper I'm working on,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I know.
I'm obsessed with finding out the answer.
Yep.
That's fun. My problem is I'm not so good at carrying the paper all the way through to publication because once
Oh,
I know the answer, I've had my fun.
I'm horrible. When I get the R&R, I'm like, well, I'm done.
Right? Right.
Let's move on to the next one. It's like, no.
But we're not going to be good for each other on this count.
Yeah, we'll have to have Claude's gonna have to hold us accountable.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, I will see you soon. And I'm so excited. I'm also excited we just get to hang out and talk.
Me too.
Me too.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
great.
Okay. All right. See you later.
She hated when I called and it's late. I hope I never